Okay, so perceptual constancy refers to our ability to see objects as staying the same, even as they cast different images on your retina. I mean, imagine your cell phone. If you're looking at it from one angle, it's actually casting a trapezoidal image on your retina. If you look at it from another, it looks like a rectangle. If you look at it from another, it looks like a really super skinny rectangle. Like different angles will give you a different image cast on your retina. But the fact that you know it's your cell phone will cause you to perceive it as unchanging, as constant. So that's the basic principle that we're talking about here. So there's lots of different kinds of constancy that are displayed by our perceptual system. One is color constancy. So here's a picture of somebody like me who couldn't solve the Rubik's Cube, so they're like, let's just peel it all off and make them all yellow. So they put yellow stickers on all the different sides, and then the center sticker on each side, they put a blue one. And as you're looking at this, doesn't the blue on the right panel that's facing us look a lot brighter than the one that's on the top of the cube or on the left-hand side? The one on the right almost feels to me almost like it's glowing. It's so much brighter. But I just wanted to show you that, in fact, it's not. Here, I've just brought them down here. And again, you're just going to have to trust me that I had superimposed those circles on there, and then I just moved them down here. And now you see them independent of that context. And you realize that, in fact, those blues are the same. So how this illustrates color constancy is that the yellow on the top of that Rubik's Cube is, in fact, the same color of yellow as what's on the left-hand side and the same color of yellow as what's on the side that's facing you. But they look substantially different, don't they? Because the one that's facing us is clearly in shadow. The one that's on the left-hand side is in a little bit less shadow, and then the one that's on the top is in nice, clear light. So we would expect blue to operate the same way. So the blue on the top should appear brighter than the blue on the left-hand side, which should look a little bit darker, and then the one that's facing us should look very dark. But that's not what's happening. Instead of having the blues go through the shadow process that the yellows are going through, I superimposed blues onto it that are the same color, right? And so it looks really bizarre to have that bright blue on the panel that's facing us, that's on the side, right? It looks crazy. It's this bright glowing blue. And that our brain is saying, that's wrong. That must be a lighter shade of blue because it should be looking as affected by the shadows as the yellows are looking. Our brain understands that even though the light changes, the color of the object doesn't. That even though now it's in shadow, and honestly, those yellow stickers that are facing us, probably they're a shade of black. Right? They're probably a shade of dark gray or something. But our brain doesn't see it like that. The brain says, that's just yellow in shadow. I still see it as constant. I recognize it for what it is. And that's why your brain's like, that blue is wrong. Blue, something's wrong. You've put a brighter blue there. And what was wrong is that we have blue that never got put into shadow. So color constancy, your brain expects it to be the same color even as it looks slightly different. This is kind of a problem with when you go shopping and the colors inside the department store are wrong. And the lights inside the department store are wrong. So you buy something, you think it's whatever color, you bring it home and you're like, why does this look so awful? I had that experience when I ordered a rug off of the internet, and on the picture, it looked great. I thought it was going to be perfect in my living room. It looked like, a shade of beige of some sort, I'm not that fussy of a person. I honestly, I'm like, if it's a shade of beige, I'm going to be good enough. And I bring it home, I roll it out on my floor, and I'm like, this is not a shade of beige. This is a shade of lavender. I don't think I can live with a lavender rug. So I roll it up, and I had ordered it from a store that also has brick and mortar. So I dragged it down there to return it, and in that store, it was back to beige. I'm like, how does this happen? In my house, this is lavender. So I had to return it because I couldn't live with a lavender rug when I didn't want a lavender rug. Now, I have nothing against lavender. You should see what color room I'm sitting in right now. It's lavender. But, the living room was not really the place to have a lavender rug, and I had wanted beige. My brain assumed that what it looked like on the computer screen is what it would look like on my floor, and what it looks like on my floor is what it should look like at the store, right? Like it should look the same. And my brain was blown away by the fact that it changed colors in every other place it was beige. My house, it was lavender. So clearly it was my lighting at my house. But anyway, so color constancy is one example. Brightness constancy is another example. Here we have, a checkerboard. We have a cylinder that's casting a shadow across the checkerboard. so that you're seeing the square that's labeled A as, I don't know if even, I'll just call it, you see it as a shade of dark gray, and you're seeing the one that's labeled B as a variation on the light gray squares, right? You're just seeing them as, you see it as being in shadow, but it's obviously a different color than the A, right? Obviously, except for obviously, it's not. So what I did in this picture, just to make sure that you understand that I'm not trying to trick you or anything, is so you're seeing it. So now I took the shape thing in PowerPoint and I made two rectangles that are in fact the exact same color as the A square, stretched them down there, and now you see the B square. And in fact, if I go like this, it really clarifies that the vertical lines that I placed in there, the square labeled A and the square labeled B, are all the same shade of gray. They are exactly the same shade of gray. But our brain does not see it that way, does it? I'll have to just take it away and you're back to B looking lighter. Your brain says that is just one of the light squares in shadow. And so you see it as different, right? So your brain expects things to be the same color even as the brightness changes, even as it goes from looking like a bright white to now it looks like a dark gray. Your brain still sees it as the bright white. It assumes the brightness is constant. And then we have shape constancy. When I was little, I tried to draw a door opening. I don't know if I was taking like a cartoon creating class or something like that when I was little, like as a summer camp thing. And so I was trying to show a door opening and I had so much trouble trying to make a door open. If you've ever tried to do it, you might have had that same kind of experience where it's like, why does this not look right? Now this door looks right. I didn't draw this. This door looks right. And the reason why I think I struggled so hard trying to draw a door opening is that my brain knows that the door is rectangular and it will always be rectangular, right? But I didn't know that it actually appears not to be a rectangle as it opens. And if you look carefully at these stages of opening, these three doors are in fact very different shapes. I went ahead and made little outlines for each of them. And if I take away the noise of the door and we just look at the outlines, you realize, oh yeah, by the time it's, mostly open, it's a complete trapezoid. Like very clearly the leading edge is a lot longer than the hinge edge, right? And so in order to make it look like a legitimate door opening, you have to do that. You have to make it into a trapezoid. And that's what I was, completely doing wrong when I was trying to do it. But that's because my brain was like, okay, so it's a triangle, it's a rectangle. Okay, here's a rectangle. So why does this look so dumb? I don't understand. And it was because I forgot to make it into a trapezoid. So our brain recognizing constancy can make it, on the flip side, very difficult to do art, right? Because you don't realize that if you want to make the A and the B squares look different, you actually at one point have to have them be the same in order for the brain to see them as different. It's really... this is one of the things that makes art really complicated, is that you have to understand that the way that the visual system works is that it assumes constancy. And so you have to play with the colors, you have to play with the brightness, you have to play with the shape in such a way that the brain will perceive it as what you're intending to depict. It's very difficult. Now let's take a little bit of a shift over into multisensory interaction and integration. None of our perceptions are, hardly ever, I won't say none, I'll say hardly ever, do we have a perception that is strictly based on one sensation, right? Typically you're interacting multiple senses, two or more together, and integrating the information from them. Some people do this automatically and in very unique ways. It's a condition called synesthesia, which is where input into one sensory modality, so it could be sight, smell, sound, touch, taste, one modality produces perception in another modality. So I've got some examples of things that people have reported. Like some people say that they hear the note middle C as blue, and they'll have like different colors associated with the different keys, the different, I'm not a musician, so I don't know the names of all the things I want to say. Notes. So they hear the different notes as different colors. Sometimes they'll report them as different and not feelings like emotions, but feelings like, oh, that one's a tickle. That one's a soft caress, those kinds of things. Sometimes people will do that with tastes. They'll say that lemon is ticklish, and they don't mean it like a non-synesthete might say, oh, it makes me feel shivery, right? When you taste a lemon, your whole body might kind of convulse or shiver. They don't mean it like that. They mean it like a touch sensation that's unassociated with lemon, and most people is being associated with lemon in the synesthete. The number 3 is loud. These kinds of things. Here's a list that I found that somebody named Sophia Maxim drew out her grapheme color synesthesia. So she has certain colors that she sees for different numbers. And so she has baby blue for the number 1. What I thought was interesting was 4. It could be either rose red or indigo blue. I thought that was kind of interesting. And the 9 can be either burgundy or brown. Kind of like, I get it if you tell me, okay, it's always going to be ballet pink when I see or hear the number 2. But I wonder what context produces rose red 4 versus indigo 4, right? Those kinds of things. Like, what kinds of context produces different kinds of synesthesia for this particular person. So synesthesia is something that only recently people have started talking about and trying to understand, and realizing that a lot of people have it. You may be listening to this and saying, oh, I didn't know this thing that I experienced and other people have laughed at me about actually has a name. Because a lot of times if you, as a synesthete, say that, the middle C is blue, people will look at you like, what are you talking about? And the synesthete is like, wait, everyone doesn't experience this? Wait a second. So there's a certain amount of misunderstanding, maybe embarrassment, or things that can happen. And now researchers are starting to realize it's a fairly common characteristic. It may be that just most of us don't have names for it, or we don't realize that other people aren't having that experience. But typically people don't integrate like this, but a lot of people do. It's more than we thought in the past do. All right, this is a good time to take a break, and then we'll switch over into the new topic of visual capture. So I will see you in the next video.